Assalamu alaikum. Today we are talking about drama, its evolution, and certain information which is connected with the genre of trauma. So here we have one of the most talented students ever who will be talking about trauma, and she is also an aspirant of PPSC. She's done with her written test, and she's going and hoping for a very good interview. So let's listen to her and what she says about trauma. So, Miss Rabia Yusuf.
Assalamu alaikum. So, as respected sir has told us that today we are going to study about the origin, evolution, and what we can say development of English drama. So let's start. First of all, let me tell you about the word drama, that how it came and how it originated. And let me give you a glimpse of the whole lecture. In this lecture, we will be discussing the development of drama from the very start. We can say from the very start, from the 5th century to till 20th century. And during all this, we will be discussing the main features and the main dramatist of all the eras. So let's start. So if we talk about the word drama, basically the word drama comes from Greek word that means action. And drama first originated in Greece around 500 BC. And at that time, if we see, it was quite religious and it was used for religious customs and religious purposes. Rather, we can say that it was like a religious ceremony. And in Greek, basically there were three main tragic playwrights, and one of them was Sophocles, Aeschylus, and Euripides. And there were basically some comedians as well who wrote comedies, and two most favorite were there, most important were there, Aristophanes and Menander. So in this way, we come to know that basically there were two genres. One was tragedy, and the other was comedy. And basically, they wrote classical comedies, and we have the best example, Oedipus Rex, that was written by Sophocles. And basically, they used the actors that were performing the drama. They used two type of masks, as well as these two masks represented it two genres. One was comedy, and the other was tragedy. And then after Greeks, the drama comes to Romans, and in Romans, drama came around about 364 BC. And again, with Romans, drama was also religious, and in Romans, comedy was the basic genre, and in comedy, Platus was the main protagonist, and in tragedy, Seneca, a Roman writer, was the main protagonist. Or if we come to know, now we will be talking about the English drama. So if we talk about English drama, so we can say that basically the English drama was influenced by Roman drama, and Roman drama was influenced by Greeks, because we know very well that before the Anglo-Saxons, Romans were presiding in England. So Romans were there, and from Romans, Anglo-Saxon people, or we can say England people, took the drama. So now we will be coming towards English drama precisely. But let me clear one thing. The two main genres of drama are tragedy and comedy. So the tragedies of English drama are inspired by Greeks, and the comedies of English drama are inspired by Romans. So now coming towards English drama. So first of all, we will be talking about the English drama from 5th century to 10th century, what we can say the Anglo-Norman age. So if we say Anglo-Norman age, we find the drama was evolved from liturgical plays. What were the liturgical plays? Liturgical plays basically were religious plays, and they were for religious ceremonies with religious themes, and they were written in Latin language. As we people know very well that in Anglo-Norman period, or as Romans were, language was Latin. So language of religion was Latin. So basically drama was religious, so it was also written in Latin, and it was performed only church. Yes, in that age drama was totally under the control of church, and even the actors that performed the drama, they were totally clerks, priest or monks. No other person could perform the drama. So we can say that from 5th to 10th century, or in Anglo Saxon period, drama was totally under the control of church. So now coming towards the next stage, that is from 13th century to 15th century, then we can call it Anglo Norman period or Middle Ages, or in poetry we can say the age of Chaucer. So if we see the development of drama here, first we saw that it was totally religious in the last age, but if we are talking about the Middle Ages, drama becomes secular. Yes, it got secular themes. Secular means that that was not totally based on religion. And then earlier, last age में जो language थी, that was Latin, but here in this age, drama was written in vernacular language. The word vernacular means ordinary language that was understood by the common people, and we know very well that in Middle Ages the common language was English, so drama was started being written in English. And then earlier we saw that drama was performed in only church, but here in this age we come to know that from church drama came toward churchyard, and then from churchyard to it came to streets, and then it streets it came to marketplace. तो अब ड्रामा जो है वो चर्च से बाहर जो है वो आ गया था. And then earlier we saw that drama was only performed by actors that were priests, monks, and like this. But here in this age we come to know that many other professionals like goldsmiths, butchers, bakers, they also started performing drama. So and at the end we see that the common persons also started performing drama on theater. Then in this age we come to know there were basically four types of dramas. So let's see what were these four types. So here we have mystery plays, miracle plays, morality plays, and interludes. So let's see one by one. So if we discuss first of all mystery plays, and these mystery plays were also basically religious in nature, and here the themes were taken from old or New Testaments or biblical themes were there. Like we can say here in these types of dramas, fall of Lucifer, creation of Adam, of Eve, crucifixion and resurrection of Christ, and the last judgment. Such type of stories were discussed. And if we want to have an example of mystery plays, it is the Last Judgment and Resurrection. These two plays are the best examples of mystery plays. And then we have miracle plays. Miracle plays basically they have also got some biblical stories, and basically they were about the life of saints. Yes, saints' life were described, and the saints were used to be very holy, very noble, and very pious. So, due to their being noble, some miracles used to occur in their life. So these miracles were portrayed in miracle plays, and some of saints were real, but some of saints they also had fictitious stories about saints. And so these were the miracle plays. And if we want to have an example of miracle play, there is named Life of Thomas Becket. We all know that Thomas Becket was a famous saint. So Life of Thomas Becket was a miracle play. And then there was another example and of drama writing, that was morality plays. So morality plays basically it was like a development in the genre of plays. It was like allegorical plays. Here the virtues and vices were personified. The characters were not the only physical human beings, but all the characters were personifying some virtues. Like hero was a person who personified particular virtue. Hero was every man. Hero represented humankind, and hero was like every man. And if we want to have an example, Every Man was a play that was a morality play, and The Castle of Preservance, that was also a morality plays. And then the last type of drama was interludes. Yes, interludes was also a kind of development in drama, and it was developed in late 15th and 16th century, and they were short interludes. In Urdu we can say that there was a वक्फा. ड्रामा जो परफॉर्म किया जा रहा होता था उसके दरमियान जो है वो वक्फा आता था, और वक्फा जो है वो इंटरल्यूड की शक्ल में होता था. Like there were among serious plays, some serious plays are being performed, so there will be a short farce we can say, or there used to be witty dialogues. So here all types of dramas were there, but let me tell you one thing, that how dramas were performed. Basically, they were performed in 4 cycles, and all the 4 cycles were named on the name of some cities. But let me tell you an important thing, that was in that age mobile theaters were there. So mobile theaters किस तरह होते थे कि वो जो उनके थिएटर्स होते थे, बेसिकली वैगन्स हुआ करती थी, उनके नीचे व्हील्स लगे हुए करते थे, और जहां जहां उन्होंने अपने स्पेसिफिक सीन्स परफॉर्म करने होते थे, वो वहां पे परफॉर्म करके जो वैगन्स है वो आगे चले जाया करती थी. सो इट वाज लाइक मोबाइल theater, and the wagons were called pageant wagons. So still here we can say that drama was like not an English, but it was in Latin, and it was not pure English. But if we want to have a true play of English, basically it was Rolf Royster Doyster. इंग्लिश का जो पहला ट्रू ड्रामा है और कॉमेडी है, बल्कि उसे हम करेंगे, इट इज कॉल्ड फर्स्ट इंग्लिश कॉमेडी, दैट इज रॉल्फ रॉयस्टर डॉयस्टर, एंड इट वाज रिटन बाय निकोलस अडेल. Nicholas Adel basically was a schoolmaster, and the drama was performed by or acted by schoolboys. This was the first English comedy, pure comedy or true comedy, you can say. And the first tragedy that was basically written in English, that was Gorboduus, and it was written by Thomas Scavell. So now here we come to know that in Middle Ages, English drama had become a complete genre, and then in the next age comes Elizabethan drama, or Elizabethan age come, that is regarded the greatest age in drama writing. So here if we come to know about the main figures and the main features, so let's first of all see the main features of the Elizabethan drama. It was basically a drama that had revenge themes, and then it had melodramatic scenes, and then it had inner conflict, and then it had hero villain protagonist, hero hyphen villain. Like here in this place we come to know that they were protagonists that had good qualities of a hero and qualities of a villain as well. And here tragic comedy was also there, and presence of ghost, it means supernatural element were also there. And then the basic development was that drama was started being written in blank verse. So drama was written in blank verse. And if we see the tragedies and comedy and tragedy was basically there, so tragedies were basically influenced by Seneca. Seneca was a Roman writer, as we had already discussed it, and Seneca had shown mostly revenge themes. So the tragedies of Elizabethan drama, like Shakespeare and this and that, they were basically influenced by Seneca. And basically it was the age of humanism, or Renaissance age was also there. So it was humanism, that humanism focused on subjective feelings on individual. So here to know that the protagonists of the dramas were facing conflicting external conflict and inner conflict as well. As we see that Dr. Faustus, Hamlet, Othello, Macbeth, all the persons were there who were facing some external or internal conflict. And then these were the features of Elizabethan or Renaissance drama, and now we will be discussing the main figures. So if we come to know about the playwrights, basically there were university wits, and after the university wits there was the greatest playwright named William Shakespeare. Or first of all, let's see about the university wits. So basically there are 7 persons in university wits. Somewhere they are written 6 and somewhere they are written 5, but if we want to be very conscious, so we come to know that there are basically 7 persons in university wits, and their duration was 10 years. So if why they were called university wits, because they had studied from Cambridge University and Oxford University, that's why they were called university wits. So who were the 7 persons? Basically Christopher Marlowe, Robert Greene, and Thomas Nash. 3 persons were these, and these 3 persons had studied from Cambridge University, and the other 3 persons, John Lely, Thomas Lodge, and George Bailey. These were the 3 persons who had studied from Oxford University. And one other person was there whose name was Thomas Kidd. And the most interesting thing is that he had not studied from any university, and but he played a great role in the formation of drama, even the formation of Shakespeare's drama as well. So if we want to see these main figures dramas one by one, so I don't think so there is a great need. But if we really want to have an example, so John Lely was there. It has written comedies like Compass, Spaw and Fowl, Endymion, Midas, The Woman and the Moon. And then we have George Billy. George Billy's the main trauma was the arraignment of Paris. And then we come to know that about Robert Greene. And Robert Greene's main play was Orlando Furioso or Friar Bacon or Friar Bungay. And there was Thomas Lodge and Thomas Kidd. Yes, I was talking about Thomas Kidd that had not studied from any university, but that played a very great role. And why? Because of his drama, the Spanish tragedy. The Spanish tragedy that was written in 1587, that was a very important drama. It was inspired by Seneca, and it had revenge themes. And all the major four tragedies of Shakespeare, it has somewhat bloodshed or revenge themes, and basically these type of themes came from the Spanish tragedy. So Thomas Nash was also there, and he was a person, he was important because he contributed in Henry the sixth part one that was published by Shakespeare. So, and the last and the greatest among the university wits was Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe, we all know that he's called father of English tragedy as well, and we all know the famous quote that no Marlowe, no Shakespeare. And if we talk about the art of Shakespeare, basically Shakespeare has borrowed the art of tragedy from Christopher Marlowe and Thomas Kidd or John Lilly as well. So Christopher Marlowe was the greatest person, and he is called father of English tragedy, and he also introduced blank verse. And his death was controversial. If you read about his biography, somebody says that Christopher Marlowe is the person that is called Shakespeare, and basically they are one person, this and that. He was a government spy as well. But if he has written 2 poems as well, but we are to discuss the dramas. So basically Christopher Marlowe is famous just because of four history plays, or we can say four historical tragedies. Although he has written more than four tragedies, like we can say that Dido, Queen of Carthage, basically it was the first tragedy, but it is not included in those famous four tragedies. The famous four tragedies are, the first one is Tamburlaine. Tamburlaine was written round about it was 1527, and it was basically about an Asian king whose name was Tamur. And the second famous tragedy of Christopher Marlowe is the tragical history of Dr. Faustus, and it was written in blank verse and prose, and it was basically in Jacobean period, two different versions had published. And then if we come to know about the other, that is the Jew of Malta, that was performed in 1592, and basically it was Shakespeare play, Merchant of Venice. Basically that play was inspired by this one, the Jew of Malta. And the last one is Edward II. Edward II was the last play of Dr. Faustus, and if we see from the technical point of view, Edward II is regarded the best play of uh, uh, Christopher Marlowe. So these were the university wits. So now, if we talk about Shakespeare, that was the greatest playwright, and that cannot be ignored if we are talking about the development of English drama. So if we see the works of Shakespeare, he has written two narrative poems and 154 sonnets and 37 plays. So we are to talk about the plays. So if we see the plays, first of all, they can be said 38 as well. So if we talk about the 38th play, that was basically Two Noble Kinsmen, and it was written with the collaboration of John Fletcher. So, but it was incomplete. So if we are to add that incomplete play, so there will be 38, and if we are excluding that play, so it will be 30. There will be 37 plays. So if we see these 37 plays, basically they are divided among four genres. The division is not like that. Okay, from this era to this era, he has written only historical plays, and from this era to this era, he has written only tragedy plays. It's not like that. Though his dramatic career is divided among the four periods, but in these four periods, he has written historical plays, and then he has written comedies, and then he has written tragedies, and then he has written romance or tragicomedy, or we can say reconciliation plays. So if we from 37 plays, he has written I think so 10 were tragedies, and 10 were historical plays, or like perhaps 17 were like this. So we can divide all these things, but the most important thing is that the four major tragedies by Shakespeare. We all know that he is famous because of four major tragedies. That the first one, if we see in chronological order, the first one is Hamlet, and the second one is Othello, and the third one is King Lear, and the fourth one is Macbeth. And among the all these four tragedies, the longest one is Hamlet, and the shortest one is Macbeth. So he has written some comedies as well. And if we talk about Shakespeare as a dramatist, and if we talk about Shakespeare as a comedy writer, so there are some things we are to say. If we see his tragedies, so there are basically 10 features he gives in his tragedies. Shakespeare, the first one is tragic hero. We all see that the heroes that are in place, basically they are tragic heroes. Some tragedy does happen with them. The other quality is that fatal flaw. I mean to say hamartia. All of them have some kind of hamartia flaw, like Othello, Hamlet. Othello got jealousy. Hamlet got too much calculation, doubt. So these things were the hamartias. And then the third feature is that struggle between good and evil. We all come to know that actually there is a big quotation about it, that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So the heroes shows struggle between good and evil. The fourth one is that supernatural elements. Yes, we know that in Elizabethan era the writers turned towards medievalism, and in medievalism we saw supernatural elements, and the presence of ghost in Macbeth or Hamlet show all these things. And the fifth is tragic waste. Yes, this is an important element that Shakespeare has focused. Like if we, in this play, in his plays, what we see that the good is also being destroyed along with the evil. So the good persons or protagonist is also like killed or wasted at the end. Like Hamlet, Hamlet was also killed at the end. Othello was also killed, and tragedy happens with King Lear, or King Lear, the man protagonist Cordelia. She also dies away. And then the other quality of his tragedy is that external conflict, and the other is internal conflict. Yes, we see that his heroes are fighting with the external things, with environment or with society or with the other issues, and they are fighting with themselves as well, as we see in Othello and Hamlet. And the other is catharsis. His tragedies do have catharsis. Audience feelings are relaxed somewhere. And then lack of poetic justice. Yes, this was a main element of his tragedies. He was against poetic justice. Poetic justice, we do all know that good people are rewarded and bad are punished, but he was against it. And then the other was that comic relief. He gives also comic relief in his tragedies. So these were about the tragedies, and Shakespeare was also a great comedy writer. So if we see the features of Shakespearean's comedy, the first one is mistaken identity or misconception. Yes, here what happens that usually the heroines, let me tell you one thing, in his tragedies heroes are given more importance, but in his comedies we come to know that female are given more importance. And so what happens, like as we see that As You Like It, Rosalinda, it becomes a man, or it appears as a man, and basically he basically acts like a man in order to mentor her would-be husband. And we also know that in 12th Night, Voila, who was shipwrecked, but he disguises into a man. Then the second feature is that reasons versus emotions. Yes, we see that in comedies the protagonists are somewhat stuck between reasons and emotions, and this thing causes laughter as well. And then we see that fate and fantastic elements as well, like use of magic to shape the incidents, like we have seen it in The Tempest, that how Prospero arranges a tempest in the sea. And then we come to know about idyllic settings. Yes, he has shown some rural settings as well. And then the fifth one is separation and reconciliation. Yes, we see this in this reconciliation plays, tragic comedies, that first we see that separation is there, and then we come to know that the two lovers are reconciled, and he gives happy endings to his comedies. As we say that in his tragedies, the hero, most of the heroes have to die, but comedies, we see that there is happy endings. And if we see Shakespeare as a dramatist, we see that his dramas are close pieces of human psychology. He has shown human passions of love, revenge, inner conflicts, and he shows fatal forces also, because heroes are struggling against the hostile forces. And we see the individual characters like Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. All the tragic heroes are there, but all of them have individual qualities. So this we have discussed Renaissance age. So that is was the greatest age, the biggest age. So it took much time, I think so. So after Renaissance age, we do know that there comes a Puritan age. So we do know that in Puritan age, what happens? Theaters were closed. Theaters were totally closed, because Puritans thought that drama is an immoral art, and it spreads vulgarity among the youth. So they what they did, they just closed the theaters. But we all know that theaters were closed basically in 1642, at between the civil war 1642 to 1649. But the Jacobean or Caroline period, which is called Puritan age, it started from 1600. So it doesn't mean that from 1600 to 1642 no drama was written. No, there were some dramas that were written. And if we see the major tragedies and the reconciliation plays of Shakespeare, basically they were the art pieces of Jacobean period. So in Jacobean period, or the last period, we saw a main protagonist of Shakespeare. But in Jacobean period, we come to know that there was another contemporary of Shakespeare, that was Ben Jonson. Yes, as Shakespeare was famous for his tragedies, Ben Jonson was famous for his comedies. So we all know that Ben Jonson has written so many comedies like The Alchemist, and the main drama was Every Man in His Humor and Every Man Without His Humor. So Ben Jonson was famous poet, and he was a poet laureate as well, and he was a great dramatist as well. And during Puritan age, there was Francis Beaumont, John Fletcher, the person who collaborated with Shakespeare as well, and John Marston, Thomas Dekker was there, John Webster was there, Thomas Heywood was there. But these are the dramatists that wrote during the Puritan age, and theatre were closed, so their dramas were not as famous and as great, rather, as the dramas were of the last age. So these were the dramatists of Puritan age. So after Puritan age, there comes Restoration period. So in Restoration period, as the very name implies, that things were restored, monarchy was restored, Charles II came to the throne. And as we know that during Puritan age, Charles II had gone to France, and he lived there, he spent some years there. And we know very well that the culture and the literature of France is bit notorious for being vulgarity. So in Restoration period, when Charles II came, he himself, he was the person who himself became the patron of the theater, and he himself showed the vulgarity of the theater. And if we come to know about the genres of that drama, so we come to know that they were basically comedy of manner. Comedy of manner was written, or what we say that Restoration comedy was there. So in Restoration comedy, there were basically five main figures, and George Etheridge, William Congreve, George Forquer, William Wycherley, and John Van Berg. Basically, these were the five big Restoration comedy writer, or what we say, these were the person who wrote Comedy of Manners. So now, if we see the elements or the features of Comedy of Manners, basically, here are the following features. Basically, that comedy was a reflection of age and basically of the upper class. Yes, the Restoration comedy was not portraying the middle class or lower class. Basically, it was the representation of upper class. And most of the second was in London, setting was in London. And if we see the themes, there were basically love, sexual intrigues, and marriage. Yes, the main feature of the Restoration comedy was that it was bit vulgar, rather it was too much vulgar. Basically, sexual intrigues were there, and extra martial affairs were there, and there were urban setting. And then there was rag hero. What is a rag hero? Rag hero is a person who is unmarried and cynical, and he's having some love affair, and he's having some adventure in the way of his love. And then there's though it was big vulgar, it was showing immorality. So basically through immorality they wanted to teach morality, so we can say that they have moral purpose as well. And in style they were had witty dialogues, and they had limited range. As I told you people that it was basically set in London. Like what in the world of restoration comedies, there were basically 85 successful comedies, and the period in that period 70 among the 85 comedies, 70 comedies were set in England, and among the 70 comedies 64 were set in London. And in London they had basically shown uh, in upper class. So William Congreve, George Etheridge, William Wycherley, John Bernberg, or George Farquhar. These were the five big Restoration comedy writers, and basically they focused on sexual intrigues and extramarital affair. Like William Wycherley was the person who had also spent some years in France, so he was the person who wrote the most vulgar literature in Restoration period. So these were the person of Restoration comedy, and after Restoration comedy, or we come this was the age basically 17th century, and after 17th century we see that 18th century comes. And if we talk about the drama of 18th century, so drama was once again was a prey of decline. Though we can say that after Renaissance, drama has faced continually decline. Though Restoration comedy was a great period for drama, but it has not reached to that grandeur as it has been in Renaissance. So let's talk about 18th century drama. 18th century drama was there, and basically in 18th century drama there were basically two main currents. These two main currents, one was romantic current and the other was classic current. In romantic current, what was happening, Elizabethan way of writing was being used, and they were admitting horror and violence, and there was open style. And in classical strain, the writers were following French tradition of writing, and in that writing what used to be there used to be a single action without a subplot. So this was the main difference between romantic and classic drama. So if we talk about classical tragedy, basically Addison, that we had studied, it was basically essay writer, or he wrote a Cato tragedy उसका नाम है. And then if we talk about the main writers of that drama, they wrote, there was Richard Stanley, there was Collie Silver, Hugh Calais, or Richard Cumberland, and they had written sentimental comedy. Yes, drama was romantic, drama was classical, and drama was the comedy was basically sentimental or emotional. Rather, there were too much sentiments that the two dramatists of that age, named Oliver Goldsmith and Richard Sheridan, basically they revolted against the drama of being too much sentimental. We see Oliver Goldsmith, he was an Irish, and he wrote Good Natured Man, and then she stops to conquer. And then there was Sheridan, who was also against the comedy of sentiments, and he wrote The Rivals, The School for Scandal. And basically what they did, they romanticized the comedy, and they brought intellectuality in comedy. So this was 18th century drama. And if we talk, and after 18th century, here comes 19th century, that we called Victorian era. But it's very sorry to say that in Victorian era we do not see drama writers, or there would be drama writers, but I haven't found in the book even. So because a novel was the main genre of that drama. So after 19th century there comes 20th century drama. So 20th century, against what we say, it was a renaissance for drama, because modern drama was revised. Basically the drama was revised by Henrik Ibsen, George Bernard Shaw, and Oscar Wilde. Yes, these three were the main protagonists of 20th century. So first of all, let's see the features of modern drama. If we see the feature of modern dramas, the first one is realism. Yes, as Henrik Ibsen is there from Ireland, so he's also called the father of realism. So he brought realism, and realism led towards naturalism. Naturalism was a more, we can say, naked form of realism. So and basically there were two types of plays were being written there. One was problem plays, and the other was plays of idea. So Henrik Ibsen and George George Bernard Shaw, two persons were there. So Henrik Ibsen wrote problem plays. Problem plays were the plays that show the problem of society, like marriage issues, justice problems, law problems, capitalism or labor. Such kind of problems were being portrayed there. As we, if we want to have an example of a problem play, A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen is the best example. And then there were play of ideas. Yes, and these plays were basically written by George Bernard Shaw. And here in this, in such type of plays, he used to give some specific kind of idea. Or as we know very well that it was habit of George Bernard Shaw to write preface of his dramas, and it is said that his preface were more persuading, were better even from than his dramas. So basically, he gives expression to certain ideas which he wanted to be spread in society, and he wrote also problem plays. And then we come to know that there was a poetic plays. Yes, earlier from the very start we know that drama was written in poetry, and then blank verse started, and then drama started being written in prose. But here again, dramatic revival was there, so drama was also started being written in poetry. And the main protagonist of poetic plays was T.S. Eliot, and W.B. Yeats was also there, and John Drinkwater was also there. And then in these dramas, historical and biographical plays were also there. Like if we want to have some examples, G.B. Shaw's Caesar and Cleopatra. That is a historical play, and Abraham Lincoln by John Drinkwater. That is also a historical play, or we can say biographical play as well. Then we have another very important thing in modern drama, that was Irish movement or Irish revival or Irish literary renaissance of drama, or we can say Celtic revival. What happened in this revival? Actually, some of the Irish writers like W.B. Yeats, G.M. Synge, and Lady Gregory, these were the persons who led revolt against the intellectual drama or Henrik Ibsen of G.B. Shaw. As I have told you people that Henrik Ibsen and G.B. Shaw, they wrote ideal plays, or they showed realism, and they showed the naked truth of life, and they were doing in a very bold manners, because reality was portrayed, and they were portraying the reality in charmless manners. So Irish revival was there. W.B. Yeats and his other dramatists thought that drama should be written in charming language. There should be a chunk of imagination as well, and language should be rich. And the Celtic revival was that they thought that drama should be written, and more should be written in Irish language. So because the people of Ireland were more imaginative, they were more rich in language, so they thought that drama should be written in imagination, and with imagination, reality should be portrayed. They did not ignore the reality. And in order to portray, and the result was Irish revival was that they established Irish literary theatre, that is called National Theatre of Ireland, and then it became Abbey Theatre. So Abbey Theatre basically was W.B. Yeats. And then we come to know that in Abbey Theatre some revolt and some controversial dramas were played, and some revolted also were there, and it was burned as well. Then it was reconstructed, but it happens. And then we in modern drama we see comedy of manners as well. So the main protagonist of comedy of manners was Oscar Wilde. So the best example of comedy of manners were The Importance of Being Earnest, that was written by Oscar Wilde. It is also called comedy of wit. And romantic plays and romanticism was also there in modern drama. We see A Kiss for Cinderella by G.M. Barrie. That was a romantic play. It showed Elizabethan age or medievalism features as well. And then the two main techniques were there, expressionism or impressionism. So this was about modern drama's features. So if we want to talk about the main figures of modern drama, we can talk about W.B. Yeats as a dramatist. So he wrote 26 plays, and these 26 plays can be divided in verse plays and folk dramas. But let me tell you, W.B. Yeats was not a good playwright. His plot construction was very weak, but his dramas were famous just because of their poetic. Eliot, he was, I told you people that he was the protagonist of poetic movement or poetic revival. So basically he wrote 7 plays. They were written in verse, and among the 7 plays like Swanee Agonist, The Rock, Murder in Cathedral, The Family Reunion, The Cocktail Party, The Confidential Clerk, The Eldest Statements, among these 7 plays, the most important one are 2, and the first one is Murder in Cathedral, that was written in 1935, and basically the murder he is talking about, it is a murder of Thomas Becket. Becket. As we all know that Thomas Becket was murdered by the king of that era. And the other one is the Cocktail Party. So if you want to have grip of poetic drama, you must go through these two dramas. And if we talk about then another protagonist of drama, that was GB Shaw. I told you people, and GB Shaw is also considered the greatest, second greatest playwright after Shakespeare. And there is a one very famous quote about him, that he after spending 15 years in school, he said that I had never learned anything from school. And then if we come to know about his dramas, basically there were two volumes about his dramas. First was Plays Pleasant and Plays Unpleasant were there. So if we want to read his dramas, you must read Arms and the Man. That was a comedy. And Mrs. Warren's Profession was a very famous drama. And what was the profession of Mr. Warren? Basically she was prostitute. So he has shown here the problems of society. That is a problem play. He has shown that why a woman becomes a prostitute and what type of problems she has to face. And then there is another very famous drama, Pygmalion. Pygmalion is a very famous drama and very important, because just because of Pygmalion he was rewarded Nobel Prize. Yes, he was rewarded Nobel Prize in 1925, and he won Oscar award as well in 1939. So GB Shaw was also there. And then we have John Galsworthy. His dramas are also very important. The Silver Box, that was basically a cigarette box. That is also very important drama playwright of 20th century. And there are so many other playwrights, but I think so most I have taken too much time. So these were the modern dramas. And I think so it's done. We have studied from 5th century to till 20th century, and I tried my level best to cover all the features and all the main dramatists. So this was the little effort from my side, and thank you. That was all.
Gee, excellent, mashallah. Very well, very in depth, and very informative. Thank you very much for this much time, like 40 minutes, and it was a huge material was required to cover this thing, and it was covered in a very good way. So thank you very much.